following program is brought to you as a community service of Time Warner Cable. The views and opinions expressed on this program by the hosts and guests do not necessarily represent the views of Time Warner Cable.
Hello, everybody. You know, GaryPudney is probably the most successful executive producer who has reigned in television, producing shows from the Oscars to Rolling Stone magazine's 30th anniversary special and the unforgettable Elizabeth Taylor birthday special that raised, I think it was $5 million years ago for AIDS. You know, I would be sitting here all day if I listed the major stars that he brought to ABC when he was vice president of special projects and senior executive in charge of specials and talent for that network, supervising the Academy Awards, the Emmy Awards, the American Music Awards, the American Comedy Awards, and the American Film Institute tributes, just to name a few. Well, you'll meet Gary and find out what this man is doing now to let people know about private stories of public lives. But first, this segment of Conversations with Gloria Greer is brought to you by the Camelot Theaters at 2300 Baristo Road. These theaters bring you the best in independent art and foreign films, plus memorable documentaries. In addition to the fine film fare, there is fine dining at the Camelot Cafe and wonderful refreshing cocktails upstairs in the cozy Cinema Lounge with art-lined walls and spectacular views of our desert. Why not? It's Camelot. For information, call 760-325-6565. Well, GaryPudney has been responsible for countless Emmys for his specials, made-for-television movies and miniseries. And now he's embarked on a brand new career that is taking him all over the world. I know that you're doing other things in production, but I want to know about all these lectures that you're doing and your tell-all tales, Gary.
Hi, Gloria. Great
Hi.
to see you.
Okay, you just came back. Was it Monaco? Where have you been
I was
recently?
in New Zealand and Australia.
Yeah. And what were you doing there?
I was doing some lectures on board the Crystal Cruise Line.
Oh, wonderful. Love the Crystal.
Absolutely gorgeous. And we talked about the Oscars on Oscar Day.
What fun.
And we talked about how I got Johnny Carson stolen from NBC to host the Oscars for 5 years on ABC. That was quite a thing.
And he was quite marvelous
And he
doing
was
that.
wonderful. He was really the definitive link between TV and movies, I felt. Then I did a lecture on my friend Elizabeth Taylor, the last star, I call Elizabeth. She is the last of the Mohicans, you know, and still the biggest star in the world. And did a lecture on legends, which were Betty Davis, Joan Crawford, Jimmy Stewart, Cary Grant. So that was fun.
Yeah.
And
So what are you telling the audience that our viewers would love to know?
Well,
Can you
what I'm
share
doing
some
is sharing
tales?
some intimate stories because I knew all these people
course
and
you
worked
did.
with them, you know,
Yeah.
so I can have kind of a first-hand little bits and pieces of information and kind of fun, some naughty tales too. And, you know, we were lecturing just a few months ago in Dubai and in Egypt and Tahiti.
It's the people in Dubai and the people in Egypt, or was this on the
This
ship?
was on the Oceania cruise lines.
Yes. Because, of course, they would be interested in the stores. But then I
Absolutely.
question whether the people in Dubai, I mean, the natives.
The people in Dubai don't know from nothing. I don't
Okay, no.
They just know how to build tall buildings over there. But I have a saying that everybody has two businesses, theirs and show business. So I'm getting very successful with these conversations with Gary. I have a website, conversationswithgary.com.
I just, mine is Conversations with Gloria Greer. Did you steal my title?
I think, I think I did. That's probably where I got the idea.
Yeah.
We should go in business together. Why not? Anyway,
you
it's
teach
fun.
me how to be a great executive producer.
You are.
No, but thank you. I want to read a letter that you got received from Lucille Ball,
Oh, great.
which I happened to get a hold of, but it is so darling. I'll put on. Oh, my dark glasses. I'm not blind. I just forgot the regular glasses. Okay. I love this. This is to Gary Pudney, ABC, when you were obviously there. This is way back, 1985. Dear Gary, there are 2 Garys in my life, and I want you to know how proud I am of Gary Pudney. His dedication and his love for fellow man is felt throughout our industry. The other Gary, I'm presently spending a beautiful week with in New York, and of course that's when she was married to
Gary Morton.
Gary Morton.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that's when she was in Redhead
Oh,
in
yeah.
New York, the Broadway show.
And you've got a picture of her, and I'm going to share it because I've never seen a more beautiful picture of Lucille Ball.
How about that?
And
Wasn't
that,
she
of course, was
something?
autographed to you with love and
Yeah,
so
I
on.
know.
She was so beautiful, and of course, she lived down here, as you know.
She was a desert rat. She loved the desert, and I visited her many, many times.
Yeah.
And her daughter, Lucy Arnez, is a good friend of mine. Lucy and I had a little romance years ago together. And I was in my office at ABC one afternoon, and I got a call from Lucille Ball, who said, "Be at my house at 5 o'clock. I want to talk to you." This is after I'd been dating Lucy.
Young Lucy.
Young Lucy. So I went over there, scared to death.
Whoa.
And she said, "What are your intentions towards my daughter, Gary?" And I thought, oh boy. I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll take $5 million to marry her or $5 million not to marry her." And she bust out laughing, and we became great friends.
Well, you're still friendly with Lucy, aren't you?
Absolutely, I see her all the time. She's she's as talented as her mom.
Is she doing anything now?
Oh yeah, she performs. She has an act, a musical act, and she's written a book, and she's very industrious, and she handles the Lucille Ball business, which there's a big business there.
Oh, I think so.
The name and likeness. And every day of the year, somewhere in the world, a Lucy show is running.
Isn't that incredible?
So it's incredible. Yep. I supervised the last series that Lucille did, which was for ABC.
Yeah.
Was not a hit.
No.
You know, she was a little past her prime.
Well, I had dinner one night. We were all at a friend's house, and Lucy and Gary were there, and that's when her show was on the air, the new show.
Right.
And she admitted that she was very disappointed with the ratings. And I looked at her, and I said, "Do you realize I Love Lucy is still on the air? You are competing with yourself."
There you go.
And she was not in a position to do that anymore.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, she was, you know, at that point, Lucille was, I think, 74 when she did that, and it was a little hard for her to do that kind of physical comedy that she was so known for. She always said to me that the one that really she thought was the terrific talent was Carol Burnett.
Yeah.
She thought Carol was great, and of course, Carol worshipped Lucy.
And you worked with Carol, I
Oh,
know.
many times, yes.
Yeah.
I went to school with Carol. We were at UCLA together.
Oh, what a kick.
So I've known Carol over half a century. She's just wonderful. She's the only person in the world that calls me Pud. She'll call me on the phone and say, "Pud," you know. I love her. She's great. Actually, one of the things that I'm in the development stage is a movie with Carol.
Really?
Called Hollywood Arms. It's the story of the first 16 years of her life when she lived at a little motel on Sunset Boulevard called the Hollywood Arms with her grandmother and her young sister. So that was written by her daughter, Carrie Hamilton, who passed
Is she
away.
the one who died? Yeah.
And Carol had it produced on Broadway. Hal Prince directed it, and we're going to try to make a movie out of it for television. Carol will be in it at the beginning and the end, but
As
kind of a narrator, and then we'll get someone to play her.
You know, Carol Burnett is an amazingly fine dramatic actress,
Very
as well
good.
as being a comedian.
Absolutely.
And I'm surprised that she isn't,
Well,
unless she doesn't want to do character roles, but she's really superb.
She is superb. We did a movie at ABC with her called Friendly Fire, where she was nominated for an Emmy Award for her acting.
Yeah.
She played a mother who'd lost her son to friendly fire in the Vietnam War. And she just the other day did a role where she kind of did a Gloria Swanson Sunset Boulevard character on, you know, a half-hour detective show.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah.
Well, why not? One of the wonderful shows that you were very much responsible for, and I guess executive producer, was the birthday special for Elizabeth Taylor. that raised so much money for AIDS, and it's when people really weren't doing things for AIDS. Tell me how that came about.
Well, the truth of it is, when Rock Hudson was dying of AIDS, that's when Elizabeth stepped forward. And she was so incensed that there was nobody doing anything about this terrible disease that was affecting so many people. So she and I, in 1984, produced together the first AIDS benefit for AMFAR, the American Foundation for AIDS Research. We honored Betty Ford, the lovely Betty Ford down here.
And she was there.
She was there. She was a Commitment to Life Award. So I kind of got in the AIDS business with Elizabeth then. And when her 65th birthday was approaching, I went to her and said, why don't we do a television show and to benefit ETAF, the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation. So she agreed to do it, and we got a lot of big stars on the show. We had Madonna, we had Cher, we had Rod Stewart, and we had a performance by Michael Jackson, which is unparalleled. He wrote a song called I Love You, Elizabeth, and he performed it that one night, one time only, and it's really something to see, and I think you have it.
Well, I have a clip, so I will see if it's that one, but it's Michael Jackson
sure is.
That benefit, and maybe we can look at it now, Lorraine.
Elizabeth, I love you. You're more than just a star to me. Lovely Elizabeth, you have surpassed them all. My friend Elizabeth, learn to outlast them all. Many started back when you did, lost their way, and now they're gone. But look at you, a true survivor, full of life and carrying on. Elizabeth, I love you. You're every star that shines in the world to me. Elizabeth, can't you see that is true? Elizabeth, I love you. You're more than just a star. This is your life. You seem to have it all. You reach your peak. They wanted you to fall. It's very sad. This world can be so bad. But through all the heartaches, when they put you down, you know you were the victor and you earned the crown. It's like walking through fire, determined to win. You were beating life's battles again and again. Elizabeth, I love you. You're every star that shines in the world to me. Elizabeth, can't you see that it's true? Remember the time when I was alone. You stood by my side and said, let's be strong. You did all these things that only a true friend could do. Elizabeth, I love you. The world knows your word now. Of all the things on earth now, I pray one day I'll be yours. Like
So,
Okay. Now, what was Michael Jackson like to work with?
the most professional of all.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I mean, with all the crazy things that he's done, and
He
we
is
read
really
about him and
something.
hear about him.
No, he rehearses and rehearses and rehearses. And you know, he had some pretty good teachers. Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire taught him how to dance when he was a young kid.
You know, we keep hearing the story. Is it Ronnie Brown? Who was it with Motown that supposedly he watched?
don't know about that. Barry Gordy started Motown, of course.
Yeah,
when
right. It was one of their big stars.
Yeah,
and they
absolutely.
tell the story all the time about him watching, and they did the turn. But I didn't know about Frank Sinatra.
Well, Gene Kelly was
Gene-
the one that said, Michael, you should wear white socks and shorten your pants so that when you're performing, the audience's eyes go to your feet. So you'll notice, and even in this clip, he had the white socks on, and he had his pants short, and that's why you see all those feet movements that he does, that wonderful thing that he does, that backward dance step and all that. He's great. I think he's probably one of the world's greatest entertainers, in the likes of Judy Garland and Al Jolson and those kind of legends, And Michael, you haven't heard the last of him either. He'll be back.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
I really do, because I think it's very sad.
Yeah.
The various
Well,
things.
he's 50 years old now, but he's going to be...
Look at the Rolling Stones.
There you go. My
They're
God,
older.
you're right.
And Mitzi Gaynor, who we saw last night at the McCallum
Absolutely,
Theater.
yeah. She's still gorgeous, though. It's fun.
Yeah, she is pretty, very pretty. Okay, you worked with so many stars. I said I'm going to end the show and just read their names, but the ones you stole and took to ABC when you were there. But do you have one that is a favorite and that you have a wonderful anecdote about as to why?
I think my favorite is Julie Andrews.
Mm-hmm.
Julie Andrews did a variety series for us at ABC, 26 one-hour shows, which was produced by the great Nick Vanoff.
Yes.
And Julie, we became very, very good friends. I used to pick her up every day and take her to the studio, and we'd shoot the show, and I'd take her home at night. And she was unbelievable. This is a quadruple hitter. She sings, she dances, she acts, she does comedy, and I'd say she was my favorite of all. I loved her, still do.
And still, as you were saying with Michael Jackson, obviously quite professional.
Oh, totally professional. I mean, she would even come to the editing room for the shows, and if she hit one note that was not right on key, she'd redo that, and then we'd put the note in, in the editing. She's great.
Okay, now who would be the worst? What would be the worst experience you had working with celebrities?
Well, there's some pretty difficult ones out there, but and someone I like very much, but who's tough is Joan Collins. Now, when we were doing Dynasty, she was a little bit of a problem there, Joan, a little bossy, but still, there was no better villain than Alexis, so, I'd say she was a little bit difficult, but she's a very industrious lady, writes books, and still, married the young guy.
Yeah, and she still looks good.
She still looks great. Someone said, what does it feel like, what do you feel about marrying somebody so much younger? And she said, well, if he dies, he dies.
We're going to return to you. Please stay with us, because I know that we're going to have more interesting stories. And we're going to talk about some of the wonderful people who live here in the desert. I originally met you through Merv Griffin.
You did indeed.
And I know you were up at the Annenbergs a great deal. We're going to talk about that.
Absolutely.
But first, we do have some important messages.
Hi, we're Pat and Joe Manhart of Advanced Hearing Systems, and we're here with Kay Ballard. Kay, now that you've had a chance to wear the new LX hearing aid, do you like it?
I don't like it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I heard that.
Good.
If you'd like to hear like Kay does, come in and try the new LX hearing aid.
We're located in Rancho Mirage in the Rancho Las Palmas Shopping Center at the corner of Highway 111 and Bob Hope Drive.
Call today and let us make a difference in your life.
To you, it's just a guitar no one plays anymore. But when you donate it or any item to Angel View, we'll use the proceeds to help some severely disabled young people. Angel View, because we can all use an angel in our lives, once in a while.
Your visit to the Coachella Valley isn't complete unless you visit the Coachella Valley History Museum, sharing the unique history of the desert and its pioneers, including Dr. Carrion, founder of the Dr. Carrion Foundation, providing scholarships for Coachella Valley Mexican-American students.
Welcome to the magnificent Palm Springs Air Museum, located at the Palm Springs Airport, only minutes from the center of town, just off the 10 freeway at the Gene Autry exit. For group reservations and schedules, please call 760-778-6262. Experience the exciting history of aviation at the Palm Springs Air Museum.
You know, we've been talking about, to Gary Pudney, about production and the fact that Gary Pudney has always stood for production excellence, and that is exactly what you will find at La Valley's. Beautiful ambiance and excellence in food and service, and that is why this restaurant, famous the world over, has won so many restaurant awards, including the Zagat International Restaurant Surveys Best of the Best, and why La Valley's is celebrating its 35th anniversary and still attracting world celebrities and leaders to its premises. Don't miss your opportunity to share in the fun, the culinary treats and excellence, and the history. For information, call 760-325-5059. I wasn't sure where I was going, but I thought of you and excellence and La Valley's and excellence.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay, well, we talked about a little bit. I mentioned Merv. But I know he was a great friend of yours.
He was indeed, and I was involved with Merv down here in the desert in the La Quinta Arts Foundation. I was on the board of that, and I went to Merv and said, would you join our effort? And he became the lifetime honorary chairman of the La Quinta Arts Foundation.
And what a job he did.
And what a job he did. He did a show every year, you know, at the festival, and had everybody at this house, his beautiful house here in La Quinta. Yeah, he was terrific. And other people down here in the desert, you know, Loretta Young was a friend of mine. She lived down here. She was just gorgeous and fun and terrific. I think you got a
somewhere
picture.
I have a picture of her with you. I'm not sure where it is, but anyway, she did look gorgeous and is. Oh, here she is. And you were a little younger.
Yes, I think so. And my hair wasn't quite as gray as it is now.
But you know, it's rather attractive. I like it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Now, Lee Annenberg just died.
I know.
And I know that you did go to Sunnylands.
I had the great privilege of attending 10 New Year's Eves at Sunnylands with Walter and Lee Annenberg, and when I always say when Ronnie and Nancy were president, they entertained them every New Year's Eve.
I know,
and
right.
My gosh, it was fabulous. Bob Hope would be the MC. Frank Sinatra was the boy singer. And I met some of the most fascinating people in the world over those 10 years. Margaret Thatcher and the Secretaries of State and Shah of Iran, and oh my God, the Sunnylands was just gorgeous, and that was Walter's empire.
Yeah. And you know, I passed it the other day, and I thought everybody talks about the White House and the Camelot years with the Kennedys. And as I passed Sunnylands and realized that Lee was gone, and of course Walter had died some years ago, and I thought this certainly was Camelot.
Absolutely.
And what a great hostess Lee Annenberg was.
She was something. She really was. Her attention to detail. I remember she used to keep a little notepad next to her place at dinner or lunches, and she would make notes if things weren't the way she wanted them, you know.
Yeah. And of course, she became chief of protocol.
Absolutely. We were both ambassadors.
Right.
She was the
gave her that
ambassador rank as the chief of protocol for Ronnie. And Walter, of course, was a great ambassador to the court of St. James.
Right. There's a picture here of Nancy Reagan and Lee Annenberg and you. And this is taken at Sunnylands.
Absolutely.
And if you look, you can see in the background the wonderful paintings. And this is before they moved them. Now they have copies in there, but these were the real thing.
Those were the Van Goghs and the incredible. Walter called them the paintings his children.
Oh, they were so beautiful.
And I'll never forget when I asked him if I could bring my mom over to see the paintings, and he said absolutely, and he took her and explained each painting to my mother. You know, this guy was just terrific, and I just adored him.
Well, and he was wonderful about family. He knew my father,
who
had also known his father.
Ah.
And as long as my mother was alive and Walter was alive, I never saw that man that he didn't go out of his way to say, now please remember me to your mother.
He did the same thing with me, Gloria. Isn't it something? He used to say, Gary, how's your mother?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
It was just great after she visited him. Yeah. I was invited to a birthday party for Walter at Sunnylands, and I thought, what do I get Walter Annenberg, one of the wealthiest men in the world? So I was living in New York, and I saw a merchant on the street selling these cheap watches, you know, for $10, you know. So I bought him a $10 watch, had all the dials going, and I gave it to him, and he loved that watch. And about a year later, I went back, and he says, "You know that watch you gave me, Gary?" He said, "It's still ticking, and so am I."
Isn't that cute? Well, you know, you are going to do what next? You're working on a book.
Yep, it's called Talent, and it's going to be out in the spring of 2010, and it's about 1,000 famous people that I've known, not just actors and actresses, but royalty. It's about Prince Albert and Princess Grace and Prince Edward, the Queen's youngest son.
Tell me about Prince Albert now, because we read so much when he was really, you know, very young, and Prince Rainier was still alive, and Princess Grace, but you don't read about Prince Albert as much.
Well, Prince Albert's the boss now. He is the sovereign prince of Monaco, and he is adored by the people, the Monegasques that live there. And his great mission, that he's very involved in now, is the environment. He just recently was up in Antarctica, and he's recently in Istanbul, where they had a big environmental gathering of world leaders. So he's very, very on the case with the environment. And I guess when Prince William marries, you know, the Queen's, Princess Diana's son, Albert will become the most eligible bachelor in the world. So I'm hoping he'll marry an American movie star like
wouldn't
Prince
that be
Rainier
fun?
did. I've got one in mind,
But what
too.
about, you know, Princess Caroline is so beautiful, and she's married and has the children. But Princess Stephanie was kind of a wild one.
She's calmed down a lot.
she?
Interestingly enough, Stephanie is an AIDS activist. She is very interested in trying to do everything to eradicate that terrible mess. And she and I produced 3 magic shows together called the Champions of Magic. There's a magic festival in Monaco every year, and that's under her responsibilities. So we did 3 television shows for ABC called the Champions of Magic, and she was the executive producer and the host.
Oh, good. That's wonderful. You know, I want to thank you. We're just about out of time.
Oh, Gloria, it's
and
been fun to see
as
you.
we go out and the credits come up, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to read the names of some, there won't be time, some of the people who you brought to ABC that really were unheard of, some of them at the time. Some of them were great stars, some of them were not heard of at all, but became great stars. So, here we go. I have the wrong glasses, that's terrible. Julie Andrews, Carol Burnett, David Bowie, David Copperfield, Cary Grant, Liza Minnelli, Oprah Winfrey, Rod Stewart, Madonna, Frank Sinatra, Elizabeth Taylor, Tom Hanks, Kenny Rogers, I better hurry, we'll run out of time, Lucille Ball, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Robin Williams, Lily Tomlin, Debbie Allen, Barry Manilow, Cheryl Tiegs, Dean Martin, Andy Warhol, Joan Collins, Linda Evans, Roseanne Barr, we're only on page 1, we're running out of time, Raquel Welch, Billy Joel, Marlo Thomas, Dudley Moore, The Muppets, I love that. I'm glad this is big enough for me to read. Diana Ross, The Beach Boys, Anne Margaret, Olivia Newton-John, Burt Reynolds, Bruce Willis, Jane Fonda. You won an Emmy, a show you did with Jane Fonda.
I sure did.
Right. Johnny Carson, Robert Wagner, Shirley MacLaine, Sophia Loren, Cher, Sonny Bono, Placido Domingo, Goldie Hawn, Whitney Houston, Gary Shandling, John Ritter, Tony Danza. That's only 2 pages. We've got a whole page.
And Gloria Greer.
You never brought